this recap of round 3 of Reykjavik Open. Now this game was absolutely insane. When I saw who I was playing, I knew that it was going to be a really tough game because I was playing against Nordic champion Adrian Söderström. Now Adrian is 16 years old and he's been Nordic champion for his age twice. He was from Sweden, a FIDE master, and 2300 rated. The funny thing is that when I used to compete a few years ago in chess, I was always higher rated than him. I remember being 2100 and him being 1700 and beating him in tournaments, or well, maybe I drew some of the games, but I always saw myself as, the better chess player out of us two. And then I took a 4-year break and now boom, he is a million times better than me. But this game, I actually really wanted to prove to myself that I was still as good as Adrian. So I really wanted to win because I wanted to prove to both of us that I could still do it, that these 4 years hadn't changed anything. The game was crazy. It started with d4. I had the black pieces. I went knight of 6, and this was actually the second game that I played. So I had already played a game a few hours before, so I didn't have that much time to prepare in between. In fact, Adrian actually came like 10 minutes late, 5-10 minutes late to the game. Probably my theory is because he wanted to get a little bit of extra time to prepare against me. Now, Adrian, if you're watching this, you can tell me in the comments if that's the reason for why you came a little bit late. But here went e6, g3, this is the Catalan, and this is the opening that I played that Magnus Carlsen played against me when I played him. I also played, I played against the Catalan in the first round of Reykjavik Open, so I was trying to just redo that game because I had analyzed that game. So here after c6, knight f3, I went for bishop b4, which is the line that I typically play against the Catalan. Now the idea of this is just simply that I'm checking the king and I'm saying, hey opponent, you have to put a piece in between that you don't really want to put. If you put your bishop over here on d2, then this bishop is going to be very weirdly placed. I'll retreat my bishop and now boom, this bishop is just not so good placed over here. If you get the knight out, well then what happened in the game will happen. So knight d2. And now the main move is to capture on c4. This is right now a free pawn, right? Because the knight cannot capture back. And this line is actually quite obscure. I think that's a word. It's a line that's not played so often. Typically people will go bishop d2, maybe knight c3, but knight d2 is not played as often. So this was actually the first time that I ever played this either online or over the board. I mean, I've seen this in books, but I've actually never had this position in one of my games. So I was actually pretty nervous here, and I started spending quite a lot of time. After castles, I defended the pawn, as now the knight was attacking the pawn, so I had to defend it. Then b3, and now I thought for a very long time because I couldn't remember the theory on if I should either push the pawn or capture. Now, at first, I thought that capturing was bad because if he captures back, I just thought, oh, I'm just opening up the file for the rook. But then I realized that actually this would have been good because if captures, I can go a5 and I'm going to have a great queen side. I ended up going c3 though. I ended up pushing the pawn, and this is not the best move. The best move is to capture. This is what theory says. But I decided to push and play this my own way. So the knight has to retreat to b1, and this looks very funny, but actually the issue here is that my pawn on c3 is very weak, and he has the idea of going a3, kicking away my bishop, and then going b4. So for instance, if I would do something random, he would be able to go a3, and after my bishop retreats, he'd go b4, and now my bishop cannot defend the pawn anymore. So it's hard for me to keep this pawn, and if I lose this pawn, well then actually he's going to have the whole c file open, and my pawn over here is going to become weak. So those are the characteristics of the position. So I decided to simply develop here because at first I wanted to defend the pawn, but then I realized that that was mission impossible. So I just developed, queen went to c2, and I went bishop b7. And I said, Adrian, if you want to take my pawn, take it. I just want to gain some development. I just want to get my pieces out for whenever the pawn is taken. And he took it. And here I continued with it. But I was spending a lot of time here. These moves look very natural, but I had already spent 40 minutes on making all of these moves. I'm not gonna lie, it sounds kind of stupid now when I'm saying it out loud. Why did I spend 40 minutes, thinking about all this? But in the game, it was hard because I've never played this before. So it was really difficult coming up with all of these moves. And Anyways, I was starting to get low on time. Adrian had like 35 minutes more than me, and I could really feel how he was playing really quick and confidently, and I could really I could feel that it was like, why is she thinking so much? So he went bishop b2, and I went rook c8 with the idea of placing the rook on the same file as the queen, because I really wanted to go c5 and get this bishop out. My bishop here is being blocked by a pawn, which is extremely sad. Bishops should never be blocked by pawns. So the normal continuation here is to go c5 at some point, but I need to be careful to not lose my b5 pawn in the process. So this move made a lot of sense, and now he went for this move a3. Now in this position, I did a move that I was really happy about. I mean, I played it in like 3 minutes. I was extremely happy when I saw the move, and it didn't take me that long to play it. And he actually thought for 40 minutes after this move. Like, it was insane. All the time that he had more than me at this point, he lost it by one move. I played c5. I sacrificed the bishop. I said, you know what? If you want to take my bishop, take it. I didn't want to move my bishop, because if I move my bishop back somewhere, he might be able to go b4. I just thought that I would get a very, very, very cramped position. And like I said before, my dream was to get this bishop out in the open. So I said, okay, you attack me. I'm not going to do anything about it. I'm going to continue with my plan. And what is the idea behind this move? This is actually the move that the engine recommends the most. So this was actually a best move in the position, which made me very, very happy when I saw it afterwards. So the idea of this move is that if he captures my bishop, we can see that the queen is on the same file as the rook. So this knight is pinned, so the knight cannot move. So right now, I'm going to be able to get the piece back. I'm not really losing any material. And if he would go rook takes a7, threatening my bishop, then I have this beautiful move, queen b6, threatening the rook, and after the rook moves back, I can capture on c3, and now I'm just going to have an insanely good position because the bishop is under attack, and if the bishop takes, my rook comes into play again because I can go b4 and win another piece, as this is pinned as well, as the queen is behind. So if it doesn't take, then I'm just going to get a fantastic position. So that is the idea with this move. So he got really scared, and I could tell how he was like, he was doing a little bit of like, what's the word? He kept on going on like that, and he just, he was sitting like this, and he looked really displeased with the position. And the moment I played this move, he actually jumped. Like, he literally went like this. And I knew that he hadn't seen the move yet then, and that made me really happy. So he ended up, after 40 minutes of thinking, capturing the pawn on c5. And now after bishop takes c5, I just have a great position because this move that he did was worth nothing. My bishop is out in the open, my rook is in a great place, this bishop is good, and now black actually is slightly better. I'm slightly better here. So he has to move the queen somewhere. He went queen d3, and now my pawn is under attack. So I could either go a6 and defend it, or I could go b4, which was the move that I did. Now he went knight a4, threatening my bishop, and so I simply took on a3, and I was actually expecting him here to capture on f6 and just exchange everything and try to get into a drawn endgame, simply because he's slightly worse. But he did not do that. He captured my pawn, and now I have this beautiful intermediate move, bishop e4, and I'm just basically, with all my pieces, pushing back his pieces. My bishop is threatening the queen, but not just that. After exchange, my rook is coming in as well. And you can see that his pieces are just really badly placed. His queen went up to e3, and what I really wanted to do is that I wanted to try to get a knight to g4. So I ended up going queen a5 just to, well, first and foremost, I wanted to make sure that my queen was active, but I also wanted to make sure that this knight on a4, that it couldn't go anywhere. Typically, there's a saying in chess that goes, knight in the rim is grim. I always say it backwards, but knights on the rim are grim, right? So knights on the side of the board are sad. That's basically what that means. And so this knight is sad because it can't go anywhere. Like literally the 4 squares that it can go to this, and this are occupied by my pieces, so the knight cannot go anywhere. So I really wanted to play against this knight. And I'm gonna give you a spoiler alert, chat. This knight did not leave this square for the rest of the game. Insane. So, rook a1, he went back with the rook. And now I just said, you know what? This knight is coming in with force. I was really scared, actually, of knight d4, threatening my rook, but also opening up this diagonal for the bishop. So he ended up taking the knight. I was expecting him to take back with the bishop, but he took back with the pawn because he thought that this pawn over here was a weakness. So now I started to simply get my knights up in the game, and once again, threatening the queen. And I wanted to like get all my pieces to the best square as possible. So rook c8, and then here I went queen b5 with the idea of going rook e2. And after queen moved, I went g6 to get space for my king, but also to stop the only push I could see that I could do in the position, which is f5. I was kind of scared of that. So now it was equal, but I was slightly better because, you know, this knight cannot move anywhere and my pieces are just better placed. So I started going h4 to the attack. Typically, when you don't know what to do, you attack, right? So I just decided to try to stop the attack. I went knight f6, preventing h5. And now rook a b1, he's defending the pawn, and he didn't really know a lot what to do. So I just went a5, queen d1, queen b4, queen d3, rook d2. I just kept on bringing all my pieces and attacking him, and he had no idea what to do. Now I brought up my second rook. I mean, look at my position. My position is amazing here. Like, I don't have a single bad piece. Rook d1, he desperately tried to exchange rooks. Here, probably I shouldn't have exchanged rooks. I should have gone rook e2, but I went h5 instead, which is also good. My idea was to place a knight on g4, so I wanted to basically create a square for my knight where the pawn on f2 would be attacked. And here, I just knew that I was winning in this position. And actually, after knight g4, he went back, rook f1, once again doing that. And I realized that he absolutely hated his position. And here, actually, this position is absolutely winning for black. And there's actually this really funny thing here, which is that my opponent is in a zugzwang. And what is a zugzwang? What a zugzwang is a position where he can't move anything. He literally cannot move anything. It's actually insane. This queen has no square to go to. No here, no here, no here. I mean, this queen has no square to go to. This rook cannot move because this pawn falls. This king cannot move because, well, then this pawn will become weak. This knight cannot move because it doesn't have any square to go to. The only piece he can move is this bishop, which is absolutely insane. He cannot move the pawns because he loses a pawn. This pawn is blocked. So actually in this position, I went queen d4, which is fine. Going f5 here is just a move that would give this position, you know, like plus -3, -4 for black. It's just completely winning. His best move here would be to go bishop h3, and after I move my king somewhere, you know, king h7, I can just ask him, what are you doing? You have nothing to do. My opponent can't do anything. He is completely stuck. We've completely, put him in a spider net. So I went queen d4 because I wanted to put extra pressure on this pawn. And there's nothing wrong with it, but now he has this move queen e4. Now bear in mind that this is move 35. I had 5 more moves before I reached 40 moves, which is the time control. So after queen e4, I went queen a7, he went queen e1, and what a grandmaster in chess would do is that they would bring the queen back to d4, and then after queen here, go back simply to write down one more move so that I only have 4 more moves I need to do before I reach time control. And time control means that at move 40, you receive an extra 30 minutes on your clock. Here, I had very little time. I was playing constantly these last few moves. I played them on 10, 20 seconds on my clock. I even reached down to 2 seconds on my clock at one point. So I was in extreme time trouble, and everything I was thinking about was reaching 40 moves so that I would get my extra 30 minutes. That was everything I wanted. So I knew in the game that I should do that, but I said, whatever, it's probably not going to make a difference. And every time you think it's not going to make a difference, it makes a difference. So after queen e1, I decided to go rook c2. And this is a mistake. Why is rook c2 a mistake? Because I allow for his bishop to come up. This is why it was so important for me to maybe go f5 before. But even in this position, rook d3 would have been much better, simply putting pressure on this pawn. And now, there's like nothing you can do to defend it pretty much. Like, it's really hard to defend this pawn. So I went rook c2, and he went for this move, bishop e4. And all of a sudden, now that this bishop is out, this position is equal, which is insane. It doesn't look like it's going to make a difference. And now I went rook c8, thinking that it didn't matter where the rook was going to go. This is move 37, and he all of a sudden, when I have 20 seconds on my clock, goes bishop takes g6. And I was like, what is going on? What is the idea of this sacrifice? The idea is that if I capture on g6, there is queen takes e6 check, and after the king moves, my rook is hanging. And there is not much that I can do. I'm just going to be a lot of material down. This knight is coming back to the game, and I don't have any attack. I am completely lost. So this move, that bishop takes g6, was really good psychologically because it stressed me out a lot. I was so nervous. I didn't know what to do, and I panicked because it was a move I hadn't expected. But actually, bishop takes g6 is a blunder. It's a huge blunder because of this one move I have, which is just insane. And that move, it's so beautiful. Knight e3. This move wins for me. Why is this winning? Because now I'm one, blocking the queen from being able to capture this e6 pawn, so I'm threatening to capture on g6. And if he would capture my knight, then I have now f takes g6, and now the queen cannot take here. And now this pawn structure is terrible for him. This knight cannot get out, and I'm just completely winning here. I find this move absolutely beautiful. And if he would take here, for instance, bishop takes h5, then I actually have this move queen b7, and I'm going to be checkmating him. If he goes f3, now I can capture here. This is just an insane chess position. I honestly find it beautiful. I find it really beautiful. So I missed this move when I had 40 seconds on the clock. Probably with more time I would have seen it. I went knight b4, really stressed. He went queen e2. And now I just went queen d4, which is a huge blunder. In this position, I had to do something like knight takes f2 and just pray. I had to do something like this, which is really difficult to do, once again, because I was in very low time. But when queen d4, simply trying to centralize my queen, bishop takes h5. And now when I reached the 40th move, I realized I was in a position where I was 2 pawns down. And I started shaking my head in disbelief on how good my position was just 5 moves ago, and how much things could have gone wrong in the 5 moves where I was really low on time. So I realized that I was, in a really bad position here. And I got really sad actually during the game, because typically when you play chess, actually, you go through a lot of different stages, you know? You go through a stage of playing chess, but then you go through the stage of grief of your position. I mean, you get sad, you know, like you literally go through grief. But then after the grief, I mean, it's kind of like in life, you reach acceptance. You accept that it's lost, and you accept that, you know, what happened, happened. And you just have to accept it. And sometimes I think people play chess for maybe even 30 minutes to 1 hour more, simply to go through the acceptance stage on the board and not off the board where they have to socialize with people. And that's what happened with me. I was sitting there and I was, I wanted to try to swindle my opponent. I wanted to do all these kind of things, but I was sitting in disbelief and in, grief because I was just so sad. And it sounds crazy, but if you're a chess player and you've competed, you know how it is. And it was actually really, really, really tough in this moment. I really just wanted to go back in time and just change things a little bit. So it was actually kind of heartbreaking. But yeah, so I started doing a few different moves. And then he went queen e5, and obviously now there's just that my king is so weak. His pieces are all very active. So I went for the only thing that I thought I could do, which is that I tried to go for checkmate ideas. And actually, the game still had some tactics going on. The game was not over, and you could tell that he was like, I could like read his body language. He was like, oh, the game is over, and then I did this, and I was like, okay, wait a second, Adrian. Let's just regroup our thoughts, and let's just like take a moment to really finish off the game. So here actually he went h5, which I thought kind of gave me maybe a little bit of counterplay, but it's a good move. I went queen f1 check after a lot of thinking, king h2, and everything that I had to do was get rid of this bishop. If the bishop left, then I would have queen h1 checkmate. So I kept on trying going for some different tactics. I brought the knight up, queen g5, and now in this position, after f6, I went for the last tactic that I saw that I had, which was that here, if he would have gone h7, I'm actually winning this game. And you can try to guess what it is, but after queen g1 check, the king moves. I have this beautiful move, knight takes f4, and after he captures, I simply go for knight takes f4, and this is just completely winning. So I was trying to go for these sort of tactics, but he didn't want any tactics, so instead of pushing the pawn, he simply captured my knight. And then after a few moves, this kept going a little bit. I was still just trying to somehow checkmate him. But he found a really nice finish, and here I resigned because after the king moved somewhere, he was going to go rook d6. He was going to go rook d6 check and win my queen, and it was just game over. So I ended up losing this game against Adrian Soderstrom, but I'm really happy that I got such an amazing position. The first 36 moves were just completely winning against such a strong player. So I was really happy about that. I'm sorry that the recap was late. Yesterday when the game finished last night, it was really, really late. It was like 10 p.m. and I was really tired, and kind of emotionally drained from the game. I also played in the morning yesterday. There were 2 rounds the same day. So I was super tired. I just felt like I needed to get a little bit of rest and just like recap all my thoughts and do the recap when I was feeling, you know, much better. So here I am, feeling great, accepting what happened, and just looking forward to the new game because I'm playing actually in an hour. I'm playing today against the 1600, someone from England. So I'm excited for the game. I have the white pieces and I'm just gonna give it my best, and I will see you all in the recap of that round. This is gonna be now round number 4. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Hope you enjoyed it. And if you are my opponent, GG's, great game, and you know, good luck in the tournament.